to our special coverage of Russia's presidential election. I'm Lynda Kinkade, and we begin with breaking news out of Russia. Voting has just ended in the country's presidential election. We're waiting on the first exit polls to come in. President Vladimir Putin is expected to win his fourth term as leader. He ran against 7 other candidates, but his only real challenge is voter apathy. After casting his ballot in Moscow, Mr. Putin was asked what voter turnout he was hoping for.
Any number of votes which will allow me to serve as president. I am sure that the program I offer for the development of the country is the right one.
We are following the Russian election from all angles. Our Pleitgen is in Moscow's Red Square. But first, I want to go to Matthew Chance. He's been at a polling station all day. And Matthew, while Putin is expected to win his fourth term, there is a question, of course, of how much support he has. Do you have any exit polls yet? And if so, what are they showing?
No, I haven't seen any exit polls yet, but I can certainly tell you that before he went into this election, Vladimir Putin's popularity was riding high. The latest opinion poll I saw said that he had approval ratings of 82%. And so this is an individual who is not just somebody who's dominated Russian politics for the past 18 years as either president or prime minister, but is an immensely popular figure. Of course, the opposition in this country say, look, you know, our candidate, Alexei Navalny, was not permitted to stand. He has a criminal record, which they say was politically motivated, which barred him from putting his name on the ballot. They say that the media quite rightly is dominated by the government, and it constantly promotes Vladimir Putin. But nevertheless, you know, from all the conversations I've had over the years and even throughout today at that polling station and elsewhere, Russians overwhelmingly, it seems, support Vladimir Putin. They see him as a strong figure, a strong leader who can restore, who already has restored Russia's status as a global power and stand up to its enemies around the world, particularly in the West. He's someone who, you know, like him or not, Russians believe he has restored to them their pride. After the collapse of the Soviet Union and the chaos of the 1990s, under Vladimir Putin, they feel like their country's strong again, and they're prepared, it seems, to vote for him at the ballot box. There were 8 candidates contesting this election, but there was only ever one contender, and we're expecting to see an overwhelming victory for Vladimir Putin when those results come out.
Matthew, we know more than 100 million people are eligible to vote. Just give us a sense of the turnout. Of course, opposition figures have been calling for a boycott. Has that worked?
It doesn't seem to have worked at all, no, in short. The final turnout figures are not with us yet, but just a few minutes ago, before I came on the air, it was something just under 60%, but we won't know the final figure until the votes have all been counted, of course, and all those results are finally in. Within the past few seconds, I've just been told, we've had the first exit poll in Russia, and it gives Vladimir Putin 70% of the votes cast, which is obviously an extraordinarily high figure, and is at least as high, if not higher, than the previous you know, kind of results or figures that he's had in his previous 3 terms when he was elected Russian president.
He was, of course, hoping for more than 70% of the vote and more than 70% turnout. Doesn't seem he's got the turnout so far. All right, well, thanks so much to you, Matthew. I want to go to Fred now. And Fred, you are outside a party, a Kremlin party, an election party. Just explain what the feeling is there, what voters have been telling you today.
Hi, Linda. Well, I would say confidence is the feeling here. Obviously, most of the people who are coming here are Vladimir Putin supporters. In fact, overwhelmingly, they are Vladimir Putin supporters. This party here, which is not on Red Square, but just outside Red Square, in a place called Manege, which is right behind the walls of the Kremlin, is traditionally where these parties take place. In fact, a few years ago in 2012, that was also where Vladimir Putin was the last time seen after winning an election. And really, if we talk to people here, they are very confident. that Vladimir Putin has won once again. We just heard those exit polls from Matthew. It certainly seems as though that it comes as no surprise to the folks who have come here. And it's really the things people are telling us is really exactly what they told Matthew earlier as well, as they say they want stability. They believe that Vladimir Putin is a strong political figure, someone who stands up to what they view as Russia's adversaries in the West especially, so someone who can lead this country.
All right, we seem to be having some problems with the connection there with Fred. We will try and get back to him. Fred, can you hear me? All right, we've lost Fred. We're going to move on for now. Critics, of course, saying that Russia's presidential election was neither fair nor democratic, and there is no denying that Vladimir Putin's popularity is in Russia, and he has huge popularity there. Strong President, Strong Russia declares a billboard with the president's campaign slogan. Still nurturing an image as the savior of Russia's lost empire, Vladimir Putin is preparing to extend his powerful grip into a third decade.
Гордиться в будущем. Мы обеспечим ее будущее, и мы сделаем это вместе, да?
Here at a youth forum, it's likely few could remember a time when Putin was not in power. When he was first elected president in 2000, nearly a decade after the collapse of the Soviet Union, Putin sought to strengthen Russia. Under his leadership, the economy strengthened. Moscow's global clout expanded. National pride was restored. Since then, Putin's popularity has rarely faltered as he continues consolidating power, flexing Russia's vast military might at home and abroad. Russia's seizure of the Crimea Peninsula from Ukraine in 2014 and incursions into Syria started Putin on a collision course with the West.
Mr. Putin, in my second term, has had an increasing tendency to view the world through a Cold War prism.
Despite the crippling sanctions that resulted, goading international leaders prompted surges of Russian patriotism and sent Putin's approval ratings soaring. In his most recent provocation, Putin boasted of a new invincible nuclear weapon in an animated video showing strikes on what appears to be Florida. With tight control over the media, Putin can cast himself as the defender of Russia's national interests in a hostile world and quickly shut down criticism. Hardly an eyebrow was raised in 2008 when he ushered constitutional amendments extending Russia's presidential term from 4 to 6 years. Past protests have had little long-term impact on his popularity. Opposition figures tend to be mysteriously silenced or quickly sidelined. One of Putin's most prominent opponents was banned from running in this year's election, Moscow citing a fraud conviction. The EU Court of Human Rights says he was deprived of a fair trial.
Он боится любых реальных конкурентов.
He is scared of all real competition. We see in these elections that he only allowed those to run who do not even resist, do not even do any campaigning. When they saw that we are actually fighting for people's votes, they got scared. The famous Putin's ratings, all these 86%, 70%, all of that the sociologists and political analysts love to talk about. They exist in only one scenario, when Putin places the candidates he controls.
But the former law student and KGB officer who climbed from city official to Russian president in less than a decade has shown the world one thing. Vladimir Putin is here to stay.